with these lines. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this wonderful trap. First trap starts with the Italian game when we push this e4, e5, knight f3 and knight c6, nicely protecting the pawn. So you see this bishop move a million times. This is the Italian game. And now the fun starts when we offer this pawn in the center. This is called the shilling gambit. And now if you really capture here for free, then you are trapped. And more than 50,000 players have fallen into this same kind of trap. And here the best move is to bring the queen out, and now we are attacking this, we are attacking this. So here the best move is to capture with the bishop, and once the king move, you have to castle here. And after you castle, we can capture the free piece, and that's it. You won a free piece, but this is completely playable with white because your king is stuck in the center and you have the compensation after this pawn, and this pawn is getting pushed and white is ahead in development, but still this is winning for black. But if white doesn't find this castling after this bishop capture, then you are simply winning. Now if you want to save this knight from here, then your opponent is trapped and you can simply deliver some wonderful checkmate. After you capture with this pawn, this rook is under attack. Once you move it, the queen is going to capture here and threatening checkmate. So you don't have anything and you deliver this wonderful checkmate on the board. But what happens if after this, if you directly capture with this knight, saying okay, this is fogged and this is fogged, but we have this queen capture again, attacking this and attacking this. So you want to save the rook, and once you save it, we can capture here, and once you capture, you don't have a good way and you have to give up the queen. And once you give up the queen, we can just capture with the knight, you capture with the bishop, and the game is simply lost for white. But if your opponent says no, we can just play this bishop move here and save the queen, but you can deliver this wonderful checkmate on the board, and this is the smothered mate. So the shilling gambit is really mesmerizing, and yesterday I taught to one of my student and he delivered this wonderful checkmate on the board and he showed me this game. So obviously this trick is working. Out of 2 games, 1 game you are surely going to win this like this way. And if I talk about the states, then on leeches more than 50,000 players have already fallen for this trap. After this, I will show you the position. After this capture, queen here has been played 50,000 times, and this is really incredible. You could also play the pawn push, but obviously we can just capture here and that's it. So now let's move to the second trap, which starts with this d4 line. And d4 you will have encountered many times and you don't know what to do with this d4. Then you can play very solid by playing this d5, and this is the reasonable response. And you would see the queen's gambit on the board when we just push this c4, challenging the central pawn. And you don't want to capture because there is multiple tricks working. I will show you this line also. So after this, you can just push the pawn, and with black, if you really want to save this pawn, then you will get trapped. I will show you, and you can play this game many times with white also. So once you try to save it, protect the pawn, white can just push this pawn, and there are multiple ways of playing this. Whether you can play this pawn push or you can play this pawn push, protecting the pawn. But if you really play this, then you are trapped. And after this pawn capture, you cannot really capture, because if you really capture, then your rook is hanging and that's it. You just lost the game. So the different way of doing this, we can play this pawn push and you can just capture here. And after this capture, if I talk about the states, then on leeches 50,000 players have already fallen into this trap, and the best move And the amazing move here is to coming with the queen, and that's it. You lost the rook, and if you really block with this knight, then obviously one piece is lost and you will lose the game with white. So these moves are really stunning, and you should not just protect this pawn, which is really bad. So let me go to the initial square. After this pawn push, if your opponent plays this c4 line and challenges your center, you just play the pawn push, and that's it. So this knight is getting developed, we have to develop our knight, and this is the general tendency of the players to just pin your knight. And obviously we have to be very careful. The central pawn can really fall if you play very different moves. Like if you really want to challenge the bishop, then this is really bad, because after this capture you don't want to ruin your structure and you want to play with the queen. And after this pawn capture, knight capture, and you are losing a free pawn. So obviously this is not the way to go. And we can play a very cunning move with this knight, saying okay, this knight is now coming here to here, and if you really want to capture the knight, then we can just capture with the knight, and center is really good. But this comes with a trick. You would see, if you really want to capture here and you are thinking okay, we can win a pawn for free because this knight is pinned, and obviously you can win it. And this is the elephant gambit, and you would see we can just sacrifice the queen and see this stunning beauty. And once you really accept the sacrifice, you are trapped, and you have this bishop move, and to your opponent's surprise, you will see the queen is just lost. So once you play the queen move, we are going to just eliminate this, and once you capture with the king, we can also eliminate this, and you are up a piece. We are having three minor pieces, and white is having two minor pieces, and the game is completely winning for black. Now let's talk about the third trap, which is really stunning. Again with the same idea with this d4 line. And England Gambit you will have witnessed many times, and again more than 50,000 players have already fallen for this trap on Leech's database. And if we include the database of the chess.com, then this would be really large. So after this pawn push, you are just offering the pawn, but playing this gambit is little bit risky, because with absolute play you can just lose the game. Yesterday I taught to some of my students this same trick, and sometimes the trick works and sometimes it doesn't, because white is having the absolute best defense. I will also talk about this. So after this pawn capture, white is winning the free pawn, and now the main idea in this line, we just want to continue attacking this pawn, and we will trap the white opponent. So after you play this, we are just attacking it twice, and what do you have? You don't want to play any of the moves, and many times the queen has been played and the tricks are not working in that. But what happens if we play a very natural move like this bishop and protecting the pawn? This is also one of the best move, and you can also deliver a check this queen. You can check this queen, and the queen will have to move. We can deliver some checks, or we can also push the pawn. All the moves are just losing for black if you face this bishop here. But this bishop is coming here. It is one of the most natural way of developing the bishop, but now we are getting this fork. And now you would see both are under attack, and if you really play the knight move, then you are just losing here, and that's it. You just won the piece for free. So you don't want to play this, and the best move here is to play the queen here or the bishop. So let's play the bishop move, but the bishop move is really good. And now we are offering this pawn. So white offered this pawn, and we can just accept this. And there is a trap. If white plays absolute best moves, which are really hard to spot if white is not prepared for this line, then white generally makes the mistake of bringing this bishop here, saying okay, your queen can never capture this rook, and But the game is simply lost for white, and more than 50,000 players have already fallen for this trap. So we see this cunning idea. Now this bishop is pinning the bishop, and you cannot really capture the queen. So you are just lost. You play any of the moves and you are lost. I will show you. If you really capture here, we don't need to capture the rook, because we can just capture the bishop and we are threatening here. So you play any of the moves and you are just lost, and the rook is falling. You play, let's see, you play the knight move. We can also capture this, not this. We can just challenge this, and once you play the queen move, we can also capture this for free with the check. Okay, not here. Capture this with the check, and that's it. The game is simply lost. So you don't want to play like this, and the game is simply over after this move. So you can also play this knight a3, saying okay, now we can save this and you don't have this fork. But obviously we are just winning here, and the game is simply lost for white. But there is another move. After we pin this bishop, you can also play this queen move and saying okay, I am just protecting this bishop, but this is again losing. We can just first eliminate this bishop, and now if you really capture with the knight, then the rook is falling. I will show you after this capture. We can just capture the free rook, and that's it. So what happens if you really play the queen move? Says okay, now I am protecting the rook, and what do you have? But we witness this wonderful checkmate on the board, because all the squares are really covered here. So this checkmate has already been appeared many times in online games,